Anybody have any dirty jokes?
Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with your hosts, Amy Babinchak, James Kernan, Amy Luby, and Karl Palachuk. Produced by and for the Small Biz Thoughts technology community. We're dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional. Welcome, everybody, to the SMB Community Podcast, and we have a full house today. We have two Amy, one Karl, one James show. So welcome, everybody.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Glad to be here.
So we're doing a webinar with Asigra on April 19th. The link is in the show notes, and that's on the challenges of backup in the 21st century. Then NSITSP has an insurance webinar, which is everybody needs this information, and that's April 26th, link in the show notes. Then NSITSP is having a coaching extravaganza organized by Channel Wise, and Amy Babinchak and Jeff Ponce and I are going to be there. And that's at the Channel Partners on May 3rd, link in the show notes. NSITSP has their all-member meeting on May 10th, which happens every quarter, and that's at nsitsp.org. And then the SMB Online Conference is May 17th and 18th, and that's at smbonlineconference.com. And then NSITSP has another webinar coming up at the end of May and another one at the end of June. And we will link to those as they get a little bit closer. So that's the news I had. What are you guys up to?
I'm doing almost all of those things with you. Literally, I am. I think there's one item on that list that I'm not participating in. So
Yet.
Yeah, my calendar is just as booked as yours.
Crazy busy. Yeah, lots of good stuff coming on. The next show I'm actually going to, I'm gonna go check out MSP GeekCon. It's in Orlando. I'll drop the link here in there, but it's down in Orlando, May 21st through the 23rd, which kind of looks like a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But yeah, I wanted to go check it out. Look like they've got some cool stuff lined up there.
And May will not be too bad. That's when the humidity has not gone through the roof. And
go check it out. I did just get back from the Mastermind cybersecurity event down at Threat Locker 2 weeks ago in Orlando, and that was super cool. Was able to kind of do a behind the scenes tour right as the day of the NCX breach. We had an event there. You know, there were a lot of us there doing a tour that day. So we got a real behind the scenes tour. So that was awesome.
What am I up to? I am buried in scheduling QBRs with my MSPs in a quest to figure out how we can help them grow, but also did some digging into our data here. And there is, I don't know if you guys have done this. I'm sure you have. Look at your white space, right? Like what you're selling into your client base, but more importantly, what you're not selling into your client base, and developing opportunity pipeline with that. So doing that across our system through the outreach with the QBRs. So that's what I'm buried with right now.
I like that term so much better than Walletshare. White space. I mean, I do. It's friendlier terminology, I think. Walletshare sounds like a money grab. Like, where can we grab more money?
Right. Well, and I love the concept because, you know, one of the biggest opportunities for any business is to sell more deeply into their existing clients. And it's actually, if you designed your offering well, it's in the client's best interest to have the whole offering, right? Because the whole offering means you've got all the security and all the options, and you're optimized for everything. Where if you just pick and choose, like, okay, so now we got to shoehorn some stuff in here, and you're not getting everything you can. Now, granted, not every client has the money to buy everything you sell, but in a perfect world.
Well, it's the lowest hanging fruit, right? Least amount of cost to acquire that business because you've already acquired some bit. But it's really interesting to look at the numbers. I mean, even with moderately sized MSPs, you know, you're looking at adding $500,000 to $1 million in additional opportunity in your pipeline that, you know, if you just take the time to do that exercise, it can be really interesting, really interesting. So looking forward to figuring that out.
Yeah, I would think that many MSPs can add 20-25% of additional revenue just by looking at their existing clients and what else they need.
Yeah, that's one of the very first things I do when I onboard a one-on-one client is look at their existing account base, verify when was the last time price increases happened, and then dig into the QBRs. Because to me, as a sales professional, QBRs to me are an opportunity to go sell them more stuff, right? And I know lots of people are going to word it very differently than that, but you know, if you do a good job through these QBRs, that's what happens. So you stay sticky with the client, and that's so important.
And so I refer to it as a client roadmap. And actually today, as we speak, is a perfect example of why I do that. Because I think the focus for me is not on sales. Sales happen, but like right now, as people are worried about, oh, are we going to go into a recession and will it be a big one or a little one or this and that and whatever, you can help them save money, put the right equipment in the right places. If they're going to lay somebody off, okay, make sure the best equipment is in use. And then when it's time to start hiring back, they look back and said, oh, I'm going to call on James because he gave me great advice and helped me save money as we were prepping for the recession. So then when it's time to spend money, you're one of the first people that they call because you actually helped them and didn't try to sell them anything. And so then they say, okay, now we need 3 new computers and this and that and so forth and so on. So you get a shopping list. So
yeah, it's sales with evidence, right? You're not just selling them a widget or some shiny tech object. You're selling a solution to whatever their problem is, and you show them, here's the problem as evidenced by XYZ. Here's how we solve that problem. So
you're also fulfilling the managed promise of managed services. Mark your calendars and plan to be with us May 17th and 18th as we bring you the 2023 SMB Online Conference. Check us out at smbonlineconference.com. You'll find we have more than a dozen speakers and 2 days filled with presentations, plus a format that really works for online conferences. Save $100 by registering today at smbonlineconference.com. So Amy, do you want to introduce your 5 minutes with a very smart person?
Yeah, I spoke with smart person Will Faiste, who is the editor of the Ask Woody Plus newsletter, which if you don't subscribe, you should, and I'll put the link in there for you because it's one that it's paid, it's per paid one, but it is worth paying for. It's content that I see nowhere else. He wrote a great commentary about the ethics of AI and where these ethics are going to come from. Perhaps the 3 laws of robotics that Isaac Asimov put together in his series of books, and then eventually the zeroth law. We talk about that, and then also how Microsoft reacted to when its AI went sideways on a reporter recently and what they did. And so that's what I talked to Will about. Today I'm talking to Will Faiste. He is the editor of the Ask Woody newsletter, of which we're going to include a link at the end of our podcast today to their Plus membership. I really think it's something that you should subscribe to. I really enjoy it. Will, you wrote something that really caught my eye in your newsletter article or in the commentary section. You wrote something you called the 3 laws of robotics. And the 3 laws of robotics come from Isaac Asimov, which also piqued my interest in my early days. I did read a lot of sci-fi, and you actually list out these 3 laws. Law 1, a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. And these come out of iRobot, right? Number 2, a robot must obey the orders given it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. In Law 3, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second laws. And then later he adds a zeroth law. I can't even hardly say that word. A robot may not harm humanity or by inaction allow humanity to come to harm. And the reason that you highlighted these is because of Microsoft's implementation, ChatGPT and Copilot of the OpenAI platform. And then you go on to talk about ethics. And I think that the ethics component of this conversation is so important and something that has been not spoken about, not voiced by enough people. And I was so glad to read this. And what I'd like to talk to you today is about the ethics of AI and Microsoft's reaction to this and how they're handling it.
My first reaction to that is they're not handling it particularly well.
I don't know that anybody's handling it particularly well, right? All the comments that I hear about AI are, and particularly ChatGPT and now Copilot, which, you know, in general, I'm 90% always in favor of anything Microsoft does. You know, I bleed blue after 16 years as an MVP. And, but everything I read about AI is either gushing and glowing or based out of fear. And I think we just have to know that this technology is here. It's not going anywhere, but we have to put some guardrails around it. And you're the first guy I've really heard talking about that.
Yes, I think guardrails is a very good way to put it. Don't know what all of these big companies are actually doing with AI. One company that I've not spoken about or mentioned, and we tend to forget about it because the company spends a lot of money on research, always has, as for almost its entire existence. And that company is IBM, and the product is Watson. If you'll recall, won Jeopardy, playing against live humans. Watson continues to advance and is being used in the medical sciences, in the medical professions, and in other areas. I am not yet convinced that this is the sort of the true level of AI. Nonetheless, you're absolutely right. This stuff is with us. We're going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to understand it. And I do believe we're going to have to start thinking about what those guardrails should be. Although this sort of goes against my grain, it's in society's best interest to make sure that appropriate guardrails are placed so that we are not harmed by the evolution of this technology. And in that context, I'll mention just on the side, civil engineering. You can't build a sidewalk in this country unless a civil engineer who has been appropriately licensed and certified is the engineer behind it. For my 50 plus years in computing, licensing of engineers has been a constant, of software engineers has been a constant topic and has never been implemented. Software fundamentally remains a craft. So it's even more in need of societal guardrails than the guy who's designing the sidewalk is.
Yeah, so I don't even know if you're aware of this, but 2 of the 3 of us that do this podcast went out and formed an organization that may ultimately do just that. It's called the National Society of IT Service Providers. And our goal is to professionalize this industry, to take it from a craft to a profession. And how we actually make that path happen is still in the works, but there's a lot of great things underway that will take us in that direction. And we're not unique, right? At some point, civil engineers didn't have that as their, they didn't have that in their guardrails, right? People could just hang out their shingle and say, yeah, I can lay some sewer lines for you, right? And
Until the first bridge fell down.
yeah, right. Until something really bad happens. And that's actually our reason for wanting to get this going now, is because um, as soon as the first major thing happens, and we've seen major things happen, but as these build up, government tends to take no action until they take a massive action, right? It's like nothing, nothing, nothing. All of a sudden, a giant leap forward, and it's usually the wrong thing to do. So one of our goals is to get in front of that, but that is so off topic of what we're here to talk today.
It is actually quite on topic, because the question of even the part you mentioned in my article about the point about Microsoft adjusting Bing AI after it had threatened a reporter was not to adjust the knobs and levers, as I put it in the article, behind the screen and say, okay, sir, I'm sorry, we fixed that. They adjusted the way in which humans interacted with this AI mechanism. And so it was almost like the Wizard of Oz saying, don't look behind the curtain. And we have to look behind. This is just, there's just too much danger if we don't look. I'm not sure that certifying as software engineers or IT professionals is necessarily the answer. However, it would be a good idea if folks like you and I were in the mix in providing government with the concepts that they need to embody in whatever they decide to do to regulate things. Because you're right, they tend to not understand and go overboard with respect to their solution.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Well, I want to thank you for speaking with me today. I want to also say that I am 100% on board with you. I don't think this is AI. This large language model seems to me just to be a new way to search the internet and get different types of responses than we're used to getting, right? Instead of a list, we now get a paragraph. And so I don't see the intelligence in it either. And being someone who's very Microsoft forward, I was quite concerned as well that the reaction to a problem with AI attacking someone is to change the human, not to change their model.
That's a good way to put it.
We shouldn't invent something and then change the human to fit it. We should invent something that helps us amplify what humans are already great at doing, which is being human.
That's right. Exactly right. And Asimov in particular struggled with that in his subsequent robot novels. He was constantly dealing with that. And it's part of his corpus on the subject, which I would recommend. iRobot is just a starting point. iRobot is an anthology of the stories that he wrote in Amazing Science Fiction magazine. But then he wrote a series of robot novels, most of which featured the human detective Elijah Bailey, coupled with the robot detective Daniel Olival. Daniel Olival goes on to play an important part and ends up in the final novel in Asimov's Foundation series called Robots and Empire, which is where the zeroth law finally comes to fruition. And of course, even when I read it initially, it scared the hell out of me.
I'm going to go back and read them. Thank you for that. And thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me. It was good to talk to you.
got a cool one coming up, Karl, in a couple weeks, of kind of a new partner on the scene, a new service that I think is super, super cool. But before I say their name, I'll just ask everybody a question, and I hope I can bait you properly. But who's the most confusing vendor out there program-wise? You know, they're giant. They got so many programs and rebates. Nobody can keep up. The different levels changes every day. You call for support, you don't know who you're calling.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, yeah.
But their initials are Microsoft.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Anyway, there were some super talented Microsoft employees that broke off and created their own company called the Partner Masters. And they basically offer services about how to engage, leverage, and get the most out of your Microsoft partnership. So I think they're 13 days into opening the business, and they've already got a wait list of Microsoft partners all around the country that want to onboard with them. I always invite them to come speak at my events because it's they're so talented, and that was while they were Microsoft employees. So excited to go check it out. I dropped the link if anybody wants to go check them out. I dropped the link in chat so we can post that on the podcast.
And it's an entire sub-industry of people who've created businesses based on doing something with Microsoft.
Yeah, yeah. And I had a dedicated marketing person at my MSP years back before I sold it, you know, dedicated in the marketing team just to help me understand all the programs. And, you know, they did such a good job of getting rebates, getting sponsorships, you know, it paid for itself. I mean, I funded off my nickel a full-time employee dedicated to that. So that's how important it was to me, but also to the point, that's how confusing it was, because you really have to spend a lot of time in Partner Central to understand all the stuff. So
Well,
anyway,
it's a really interesting time for them to start this business because Microsoft has made the biggest change that they've ever made in the partner program. And, you know, they're starting off with 600,000 partners. I honestly believe they're going to end up with 6,000 partners, that the calling will be that severe with the rules of the new partner program.
Yeah.
So we'll be interested to see what happens. They postponed it for a year. So we were able to get in, we were able to renew at in the old program rules for another year. This year you have your option to go one way or another if you renew within the renewal window. If you miss it, you're in the new program. But the old program, we made about $60,000 a year off of it as a small 7-person MSP. So the old partner program has always been extremely valuable to us. The new partner program, I think we will make $0 from.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a key point, Amy, that you're pointing out. And I bet most of the listeners don't realize of all the rebate programs available at Microsoft. And that's kind of to my point. And I'm not going to argue with you. It's a lot of unfavorable changes coming from Microsoft, but I think it's all more the important to understand what you can take advantage of and leverage and get the most out of the partnership, because I don't think they're going anywhere. But
I mean, I understand the frustration if you're selling Microsoft product and you can no longer sell it and make any money. But is that really where the margin is in selling the product? Or is it in the services wrapped around it?
Well, it's in this. Yeah, that's the thing, right? We have to sell the licenses anyway. I may as well make a few dollars while I do it, right?
yeah.
It's not the focus of the business, but it is going to be a loss of $60,000 because we can't do it anymore. One of the rules that's impacting us most is that they decided that any customer that you have that has under 10 licenses will not be considered a customer in the partner program. So that just called 50% of my MSP's clients. And then it also, the rules favor higher rate of sales, right? Which most MSPs are not sales organizations, like James would like them all to be, but most of us are not.
What?
I know, we're service focused, so we don't have, a huge sales pipeline. That's not really a focus of the business. The focus was on service. And so, yeah, so it's just favoring a different type of partner, and that's their decision to make, and that's the decision that they made.
A lot of stuff happening in the channel. Real quick, there's probably a lot of things that Karl has on the agenda today, but one quick thing I think is big news. ScalePad acquired Lifecycle Insights last week, and Lifecycle Insights was kind of my community's go-to, VCIO tool or QBR tool, customer retention tool. We talked about, Amy Luby, you brought that up just a moment ago about how important QBRs are, and that's a really powerful tool to make that an easier experience and more meaningful for the end user. So I think that's big news. Congrats to LCI and ScalePad. That's pretty awesome. And
it's a pretty good connection too, as well, right? ScalePad does warranties, right? So yep. As long as you're talking to your clients, just one item to add to the list is make sure that you've got everything under warranty. And I really like the rule that if it's not under warranty, it's not covered by, or the labor is not covered by managed services. So
exactly.
Yeah, and I think they have a backup reporting tool in there too. Like it's a pretty interesting platform, and marry it with Lifecycle, it could be pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
There's some other tools that are popping up that actually automate the white space reporting and help the MSPs in an automatic way, like they connect to their PSA platforms and actually deliver the reporting and bubble up the greatest opportunities, because they're now using AI and different technologies to identify, here's your top clients, here's where the gaps are, your sales team needs to focus here, and by the way, sales manager or MSP owner, these are the places where you want your sales team to be focusing. It's pretty interesting what's happening in that space.
I'm now officially on the lookout for the phrase white space at the next conference I go to.
It's a thing.
Trademark Amy Luby.
Not me.
What's our question of the week, our IT question of the week?
Well, I noticed some this comment, right? I hope Google never goes down. I know like maybe 6 or 7 things. So I don't know if it's a question, but it was definitely a meme and a comment, and it got a lot of attraction in the IT support group. Our dependence on search, it's funny, right? Do I really know anything, or do I just Google stuff? But gosh, our dependence on searching things is actually a little too high in our industry, I think. And I think we've gone too far. We've talked a little bit about certification in the past and the values of it. And I think we've gone a little too far on the pendulum swing toward our staff doesn't need training and our staff doesn't need certification. They're just really good computer people, and they'll learn it, they'll figure it out, they'll Google the answer, and it's fine. I don't, that you didn't have to invest in training, continuous training of your IT staff to keep up with stuff because Google exists. And I think that's such a huge mistake. So when I saw that meme, it just really caught my eye as a thing that was being discussed out there.
I agree. We used to have a list of approved tools. Like, you cannot, when you see a virus, just go Google, how do I fix this virus, and grab the first tool. And then, nobody else on the team knows what you did or how you did it or whatever. We had a list of things. First, you use this tool. And if that doesn't work, you use this tool. And if that doesn't work, you talk to your service manager, right? And Google is the same way. We used to pay for subscriptions to services that had actual answers, TechNet and other things. And the idea that you're going to go to Google and the first 247,821 responses are forums where people are saying, oh yeah, I'm having the same problem. Has anybody fixed it yet? That is just a waste of your time. And it's really starting in the wrong direction.
It's
I
been a
do-
pet peeve of mine for a while.
Yeah, we have better searching skills than most of our clients, but that doesn't make it the first thing you should do.
I would actually ask the question in an interview, and I stopped doing it because I was so frustrated with the answers. And it's like, how would you find how would you find the answer to? And I would give them a question that no way they're going to know what it is off the top of their head. They're like, well, I would Google it. Like, and oh well, then I would find the answer, and then I would do what it says. Well, I'm like, and how would you choose the answer, right? Which is what I was really after. Like, you're going to Google, how are you going to choose the right answer from the million results that you're going to get? And the answer was pretty much always, well, the top one's always the best.
Oh, or the oldest that's been clicked the most over the course of the last 20 years.
Usually the oldest. Yeah. If I'm searching for anything technical, the first thing I do is, instead of any time, I'm like this year or last 3 months or something, so I can get more relevant, up-to-date results.
I find it extraordinarily frustrating. So
The other thing I saw is going to push your button, Karl.
I'm already pissed off.
Yeah, you saw the headline. Microsoft set to change the print screen button so that it opens the snipping tool when you press it.
As long as I can programmatically disable that really stupid decision and make it do what God intended it to do, which is print screen, I will be okay.
Some programmer in the 80s decided that was a good idea. It's 45 years later, it's time to make a change. The snipping tool is awesome, and if there's a single button instead of a 3-click button that can get me there, it's a smart decision.
How is it a 3-click button to press print screen?
I have never in my life used print screen because it just gives you a print of the screen. Snipping tool gives you the ability to snip the part of the screen that you want, do the editing, annotate it, highlight it, put little dots and arrows, and do all kinds of things with that. I can capture it and edit it all in one fell swoop.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand. I'm like, this sounds like a good thing. We're getting rid of print screen. Am I understanding this?
Yep.
And it brings up the snipping tool.
Yep.
So how do you get
That's a
a
good
print
thing.
of your entire screen? You just snip the entire screen?
Snip the entire
Sure.
screen.
Except for the pixels on the outside, which you can't because your cursor won't go there. So you get the 92% of your screen.
Whatever, Karl.
I don't know. On the Mac, you get the whole thing. I know we're talking Microsoft, but it feels real slick, whatever they call it on the Mac.
Of course it is.
But the odd thing for me is, if they start, for me, I love doing everything with the keyboard. And if you saw me in Excel or Word, you would see that the mouse gathers dust while I am using those tools. I never, ever, ever touch it. And to me, the more they make me take my hands off the keyboard, the less productive I am. And so these changes where I have to start looking at the keyboard and fishing around, what do I want to do and how do I do it? It makes me less productive and less professional, in my opinion. So, and maybe the next generation will spend all their time moving their hand between the mouse and the keyboard, and that's instead of giving them breaks, we'll just let them be 60% unproductive during their day.
I
So
think they'll speak to it.
Very good. Thank you all for being here. We encourage you to share this with your friends. If you have not subscribed to us, subscribe to us on one of your favorite podcatchers. We are on iHeartRadio, and that's always a great place to find this and many other podcasts that you like. And, share it with your friends. We appreciate that. Thank you for tuning into the SMB Community Podcast. If you found this useful, interesting, or fun, please subscribe, share with your friends, and give us a thumbs up on your favorite social media. Please check out the show notes at smbcommunitypodcast.com and give us your feedback.